Welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage. Working on my 71 Nova today from an interesting perspective, one you typically don't get. The work I'm going to accomplish could be done with the engine in the car, but there's no reason not to do it first. I don't have any particular schedule. Here's what I'm up to. Up until yesterday afternoon, the original calipers were still hanging on the braided steel lines, and I was replacing them both. I had both the new calipers on the spindles, but hadn't connected anything because I knew I had some work ahead of me. I went ahead and disconnected the front line off the master cylinder, and then all I had for a plug was my actual bench bleeding device. So I capped the opening, placed it higher than the fluid level. I made sure the master was full before I started this. So that's capped off the front lines. I then disconnected the hanging calipers and drained the fluid into a couple buckets. You don't lose much. So that effectively emptied my front lines. I had the old lines all connected. There's nothing wrong with the brake lines in this car other than the fact that whoever installed the braided flexible lines that go to the calipers, they boogered up the nuts on the lines. You could barely put a wrench over it. I could disconnect them, and I could have probably got them tight, but I didn't like the fact that they weren't correct. I love making brake lines. I'll show you why in a minute. So I started with the right front. It goes across under the engine, and it goes up, and it connects to the proportioning valve. You can see I have a 3/16 inverted flare plug in there. I always put a few rags here and there. My goal is to keep brake fluid off the paint. I don't want it bubbling on the frame. It's all pretty nice. Somebody's painted it. I did some work up there, but I just don't want brake fluid everywhere. That's what's a pain about trying to do things nice. You gotta think ahead. If it didn't matter, it would be a lot faster. I actually have no idea how many cars I've plumbed 100% front to back with the old faithful Blue Point 3/16 to 1/2 inch 45-degree double flaring tool. I bought it as a teenager, and I didn't ever think there was a better way to do it. I was wrong, but at the time I was right, because this tool I'm going to show you has only been out for probably, 10 to 15 years at this point, but it's old news, but I'm going to show you what I think of it. One day I'm at my buddy Ken's shop, and he shows me this rig. He's doing the nickel-plated copper line, which at the time had also just come out. And it was perfect for that. He had never done hard lines with it yet because he'd just taken it out of the box, but trust me, it does everything. It does it in a fantastic way. It is so fast, so repeatable. Anybody can use it. And I'm going to prove that theory by showing you how I do a line. I'll scooch down so you don't miss out staring at my face while I look crooked at the camera. First, we need material. This is 3/16 steel brake line, made for flaring. I chose this because it's the right color for the 71 Nova. I'm never gonna, if I have anything to say with it, be caught in any amount of salt, road salt. So that's not gonna be a problem. The nickel-plated copper is great for anybody that lives in the Rust Belt, but it's the wrong color. It looks out of place. It eventually turns green if you don't do something with it. So this car is getting this. Next, you have to cut it. You got lots of choices. I mean, you can buy, your local home improvement store will have this in larger tubing cutters made for cutting steel tubing or copper tubing. The first one of the tiny ones I've had was IMP, IMP brand, IMP, so I call them all IMPs. So if you're working with me and I say, can I borrow your IMP? This is what I want. The cutting wheel's replaceable. They fit in tight quarters. Even on the bench, this is what I use. Just habit, I guess. After I cut it, I file the end flat. Nothing fancy here, just a file. The next trick, most people don't do, some people use a drill bit. This is also available at any plumbing store or your home repair place, Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever. This end is for the inside of the line. It's got 3 little blades. This end of the cone does the outside. So you just stick it on there, spin one end, spin the other, and you got a perfect burr-free line that's wide open at the end like it's supposed to be. The next step, often forgot, put the damn fitting on the right way. Just drop it down on the line somewhere. You don't need to, you can lose it all the way down in the roll. And the second one's more important than the first, because you can cheat and put the other one in from the other end. But if you forget to put the Fitting on, well, you get to practice making more lines. The secret to the speed of this tool is the rotating turret. All the tools you need to do 45-degree, double flare, metric bubble flare, etc. You can read the box, but this will do about any type of flare you need to do. I also bought the 37-degree and all the blocks that go with that, so I can do hard lines with AN fittings and have the right degree flare on those as well. The blocks are marked by size and degree of the flare you want to make, and be aware that some of these aren't double-ended, depending on what brand you buy, to do the DIN style. So, in this case, I'm 3/16, 45-degree, double flare, and I'm going to come right back with the line installed, and I want to show you the trick that seems to be overlooked quite a bit. It's called Operation Zero, and I see like well-known TV hosts telling you how they line the block up carefully and leave a certain stick out. You don't need to do any of that. I've just stuck the line in between the blocks, tightened this up, and then backed it off just a hair. Operation Zero is flat. When you pull the handle, it lines everything up for you. And now you just tighten up the clamp. That's step one, or Operation 1. Now I've tightened the clamp. Step 2, only because I'm fussy, and if you read the instructions, it tells you to use some type of lube. I use my old nasty black cutting oil. It's ugly and messy, but it works well, and you select Operation 1, 3/16. So Operation 1, 3/16, all you do is pull the lever till it stops. Let go. Now you spin around. Operation 2. Operation 2, in this case it does 3/16 and 1/4 inch. And guess what? You just pull the handle again. Pull it in tight. And we're done. I'll take it out and show it to you. And it's flawless time after time, and it takes just seconds. Where the old style Blue Point tool would take me a few minutes, and sometimes it'd be slightly crooked. It was never perfect. It always worked, but these are actually like a machine did it because a machine did it. So on the turd it says Operation 0, Operation 1, Operation 2. I might have called it step 1, 2, and 3, but you get the idea. So now you did one end of the tube. Now you got to bend it. I've never had a lot of luck with the, those are 3/16 bending pliers. I bought them. They're unused for the most part. I don't like them. I don't like this style. I picked it up somewhere along the line, thinking it would be handy to make the flexible part that allows the chassis to flex from the master cylinder down to the frame. I use this quite a bit. The Blue Point, doesn't matter the brand. This style bender works quite well in 3/16, 1/4, and 3/8. I believe it's what it comes set up to do. But I do most of my bending freehand. I came equipped with 2 thumbs and 2 hands, and you give me some type of round device or just my hands, and I'll have a field day making brake lines with great success, I think. So this is just an old piece of roll cage tube, and I was practicing TIG welding on, but it works fantastic, and it's the correct size to make the flexible joint I just showed. It's not really a joint, just a few circles they put in it, which allows everything to flex. So yesterday, this is my right front brake line. I went ahead while the old one was still sitting here and just kind of roughed it out. You're better off a little long than a little short. It's a lot easier to tuck in a little line than try to stretch it. And I got both ends of this, got the nuts on it and everything. And then I got to thinking I really wanted to put the armor back on it where it passes under the oil pan. I mean, the chances of me blowing the crank out of it and losing the brakes because I'm going 300 miles an hour, pretty rare, but it's my job to overthink things. And again, I'm not in a hurry. If I don't do it, it'll sit there and eat at me. I don't know if you're the same way or not, but I got to do it as right as I possibly can, or as right as I possibly know how, and I know better than this. So I decided to start hunting for my armor plating. I couldn't find it. I've ordered some. It won't be here till Sunday. I don't want to be held up, so last night I actually took my rubber hammer and pounded the old line straight, because the line is perfect. Like I said, it just one end, the nuts are messed up. So I pounded it off, and I couldn't pull the armor off it. I don't know why. I had it in the vise over there. So I gave up. It was well past time to quit anyway. I come out today, and it pulled off with one hand. I had a different pair of gloves on. Maybe that was it. I can't explain it. Things like that happen all the time. So I took the old armor plating, and then the paint is currently drying on it. Another good reason to put it back on is it makes it fit the factory clamps, which is still fantastic. I love this car. Everything is just like it was made yesterday, or at least within the last few years. So now I get to cut off one end of my brake line, put the armor on, and reflare it. But hey, more fun. For the line lock, I don't know if I'm gonna kind of mock up where the inner fender would be and just leave it hanging there until I put the inner fender in, then bolt it to that. Not a bad plan, or I might make a bracket. There's 2 bolts in the proportion valve and 2 bolts in the master. I want it kind of halfway between the master and the proportion valve, so gravity will help out in that situation. I got to make new lines anyway. This is a less fancy of the two. I have a Hurst one as well that'll go in that car. We'll call this a hill holder, and this one it's not for burnouts, because I haven't really gone off on a tangent about it, but I don't like stationary burnouts. I'll let you get it in high gear, then let off and see how far you can do it. Just sitting still is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Anyway, and spinning around in circles is right up there with it. Again, I'll let you get it, and I'll let you use the brake to get it in high gear, then let off and show me how much power you really have. Show me about a 1,000-footer. We'll be good. Now, to be fair, now that we've opened up that rabbit hole, I've watched all kinds of Australian stuff. I know they're really big into burnouts. They build vehicles just for it, which are totally nuts. I've tried to enjoy it, like the Freedom Factory in Florida. It's great. People are going to go do it. It's car people getting together, having a great time. They do it locally here, too. They're totally into it. Just because it's not for me doesn't make it right or wrong. I'm glad people are getting together doing car things, and sometimes that bleeds off and they get enthusiastic about doing other car things. So they do it in a controlled environment somewhat, and whatever. It can't be bad for the sport as a whole, if you will, as long as, we don't get in more trouble for it, because over the years, hot rodders are always in trouble. Although lately there's so much more going on that we're pretty much flying under the radar. So, in conclusion, just because I don't like it doesn't mean the whole world has to believe what I do. So, whatever. Moving on. But one more thing. When I was in high school, the kids that borrowed their mother's Volare station wagon with the 225 had to hold the brake to do a burnout and or spin around in circles. That's why I think the way I do. You may have noticed in the background that I've gone ahead and run a 5/16 course tap through that rough opening they give you for the 3 bolts that's going to hold the clutch cross shaft on. And over here on my handy subframe, I removed the oil pressure gauge, plugged the hole, installed the clutch pivot ball, and tried all my linkage. There's a mile of room. It has the same holes, obviously. That's how I figured out how it went. And yeah, miles of room on this set of headers. So other than welding on some V-bands, we'll be ready to go. GM is pretty good. This was a crate motor. They actually included the correct hole for the clutch pivot for the Z-bar. Waiting to be assembled over here is this is a 71 4-bolt 400 block. It's going to be my 421. And it has the boss drilled and tapped for the pivot ball for the Z-bar. My 377 engine project is based on a 1976 400 2-bolt block. And by then, apparently GM had stopped drilling and tapping for the pivot ball for the clutch Z-bar. I don't know how many 400 manual transmission cars there ever was, but maybe by 76 they weren't available at all. I have a guy that comments quite a bit. It's become kind of a friend I've met through doing these videos, who had commented that sometimes the plug that I had the oil pressure gauge plugged into in the ZZ383 was sometimes really hard to get out. Well, he jinxed me, because this one is giving me a little bit of an issue, but I'll get it out of there. So that's it for today's update. I'm going to go cut off the flare I just made, install my armor plating, and finish up the brake lines and bleed the brakes on the Nova. All kind of boring stuff, but it has to be done. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.